Hello, my name is Carolin Whittick. I support women to bloom in midlife. I'm your host of Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening. HER is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract our highest desires. What is the awakening? This is the moment in time when humanity rises up out of the darkness. Who is awakening? Each one of us present on earth today, reclaiming our sovereignty, seeking greater possibilities in our reality and looking for solutions. We know being awakened is not a lofty ideal but a necessity. If we can transform ourselves, we can change the world. Guests on Her Conversations will speak to your spirituality, sensuality and soul. Listen to their stories and hear how they are in service to the world. Let their words and these conversations embolden and inspire you. If you're managing to catch this episode before the 12th of March 2025, this is your invitation to the Authentic Strength Retreat, which is an exclusive event for women who want to succeed without being overwhelmed. If you're constantly showing up for everyone except yourself and you worry that asking for help means you're failing, but you still refuse to stop, you know also that if life carries on like this, one day you will be forced to stop, and being burnt out is not being effective. So join us, me and other guests, to discover some powerful tools to recharge and find balance so you can continue to be effective with ease. The link is in the show notes below. My guest this week is Carolin Hauser, a German-trained Naturopathic doctor, Humanistic Psychotherapist, and Family Constellation Facilitator. She also teaches a form of sacred sexuality called Bliss-bonding and is the co-founder of Turiya, a multi-generational off-grid eco-living village community together with her partner Tim. During our conversation, Carolin shares about healing from a severe eating disorder that led to her discovery of Family Constellations, how the traumas of our family run through generations, and her work helping singles and couples have relationships that their souls desire. So as always, I begin by asking my guest, HER is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. When do you feel that higher energetic resonance?
I feel it when I'm valuing myself and when I'm in alignment with myself, and when I really create my life the way that I say I want to live, right? When I'm doing my self-care practices, when I'm sticking to the practices in my relationship, when I'm keeping the commitments with myself to the practices that I know will keep me in a high vibrational state of being.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So before we go into the episode in full, I just want to give you an opportunity to share a little bit about your story and the work that you do, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm originally from Germany. I came to the United States about 20 years ago with a big dream and really only $100 maybe in my bank account. In Germany, I had trained as a naturopathic doctor and humanistic psychotherapist. And the day I graduated, I fell in love with an American and followed my heart. I knew that I wasn't meant to be in Germany. Germany always felt too restrictive. I did not know what an entrepreneur was, but I just had a feeling I was meant for something bigger. I couldn't put my finger on what it was. Early in life, I had struggled with eating disorders, with anorexia and bulimia. So from the age of 10 till 20, I was struggling tremendously, and my parents, especially my mom, just tried everything. They invited me to go to meditation retreats. They schlepped me to traditional therapy. And eventually my mom found Family Constellations and experienced a weekend workshop and invited me to go to one too. And I really wanted to heal. All I wanted was to find my soulmate and be a mom, just like normal. I just wanted to have a normal life. And when anybody has had an addiction or eating disorders for 10 years, from the medical perspective, my prognosis of recovery, or my chances for recovery, were at 5%, and my chance to be living to be 30 even was at 5% when I was 20, and I really wanted to get better. And so when my mom invited me to go to this workshop, I had nothing to lose, and I went there, and it was a very profound experience. I went home, I didn't quite put two and two together, and it took several months. But during these several months after this experience, I was able to beat the eating disorders. And so about 4 months after that workshop, a friend of mine asked me how I was doing, and I was telling him that I had healed myself. And he knew me pretty well and knew that I had been trying to heal myself for 10 years. And so he was doubtful and was like, well, how all of a sudden, after all this time, have you healed yourself all of a sudden? And that's when it clicked, and I looked back and realized, oh, I had that family constellation experience, and ever since that weekend, I was able to make these changes and let go of the bad behavior, or the detrimental things that I was doing. Mm. And so he then said, well, if you found something that works, you got to study this, you got to make this your life work. So, and I as pretty typical when you're in your early 20s, most people don't know quite what to do with your life, and I was a little lost at the time. I followed his advice and then spent my 20s studying family constellations. And luckily for me, in the United States, there is no regulations around it. So when I came here, I couldn't be a practicing naturopath because of the licensing, but I could go into doing family constellations, and so that's what I've been doing. And I have specialized in really helping couples and also singles with their relationships and creating beautiful, powerful, harmonious relationships, because I believe that when the feminine and the masculine comes together in harmony, that we're really one of the greatest forces in the universe. And also where I've struggled the most and where most people struggle the most is either, with money or in their intimate relationships, right? So I very much feel that that's my purpose. And I am in a very beautiful and very healthy relationship finally for the last 3 years now. And I'm really enjoying helping couples and singles have the same, in a sense.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your story. And so can you, for the layperson out there, in your words, explain more about what family constellation work is?
Yes. So Family Constellations was founded or discovered or brought to the Western world by a man named Bert Hellinger. He's Austrian. And the story goes that he was a missionary and a psychotherapist, and he was in Africa doing missionary work. And because he had psychotherapy training and had learned to do family drama, or kind of like representative role-playing, psychological role-playing, like Gestalt therapy and things like that, when he saw the Zulu tribes and saw them, how they dealt with either when an individual was sick or an individual had done something bad, they wouldn't single that person out. They would come together as a tribe and see it as a symptom. They saw the individual's behavior or the individual's manifestation as an expression of there's something going on with the whole. And so when he brought it back to Germany, in Germany at the time, it was in the 80s, I would say, there were a lot of young men committing suicides, 16, 17-year-old boys that had grown up in good families, that were raised well, were, at first glance, it was very inexplicable why these young people were taking their lives. And so with what the Zulu had done in mind, he started looking at the tribes, the families that these young boys were coming from, and realized that they all had one thing in common. And the thing that they had in common was that all their grandfathers had been high up Nazi officials. So in essence, the younger generation was trying to bring balance back for what the older generation had done. So that's why it became super, super popular in Germany, because we had so much healing work to do after what had happened in the war. And in practicality, the work was done in groups. So when I experienced my first one, I would go to a group workshop. Everybody that was there had something to heal. Nobody knew each other. I didn't know the other people. There were people that had physical issues. There were people that were struggling with money. There were people that were struggling with themselves, like me. A whole gamut of different things. And all we really knew of each other was the issue. So the people knew that I had these eating disorders and that I wanted to heal from them, but they didn't know anything else about my family or any dynamics or anything like that. And then the reason why it's called constellating has nothing to do with the stars or astrology. It has to do with taking your inner picture and putting it spatially in the room so that your subconscious dynamic can be made visible. And what that means is, in my case, the facilitators, that's what the people that lead these sessions are called, practitioners or facilitators, they asked me to pick people from the group to represent for my mother, my father, my siblings, and the eating disorder. So I would go out the room and just intuitively ask people where I felt drawn to if they were willing to represent for my mother, my father, and so forth. And what that meant was that if they said yes, I would ask them to get up and then kind of close my eyes and then place them in the room. So once I had picked it was 5 or 6 different people that were part of my constellation. I had placed them in the room based on my intuitive picture. Then the facilitators asked me to sit down, and then I was just watching what was unfolding. And the crazy thing that happened was that these people knew stuff. They basically very easily were able to make the hidden dynamic in my family visible that somehow deep down I knew, but it was, when something is in our subconscious, right, it's there, but it's not top of mind. And so by these people basically putting it right in front of my eyes where I could see it, and also part of how it works is these representatives can say things that the normal family members, because of their egos and their history with each other, can't say. So what we work with in family constellations is the knowing field, knowing that we have access to everything that's ever been happening, or every consciousness, everything that's there. And with these healing sentences, so that we can go from a place where people don't talk or disjointed or energy is not flowing, and it takes about 45 minutes or so, to a place where the energy is flowing between people and whatever needed to get resolved is resolved. And the miraculous thing is, it works even if the people are there or not there, because we work with energy and we are all connected to that energy. So even though I've been doing this for 26 years now, I still can't quite explain how it works, but it does work, and it is very powerful. And in my own career, I've resolved, things for people. Generally, people come to this work when they've tried everything else,
Right.
Yeah, and the stuff that comes out for why some people, like some of the wildest stories. I had one client where she kept having these asthma attacks, and nothing would help. And when we did a constellation for her, what came out was that her great aunt was buried alive, and so she was carrying that memory for that great aunt. And when the great aunt could get honored in the setting, the asthma could go away. And things like that, where we think we are like these evolved, and we are, modern people, very independent, but it's an illusion that we don't carry. We're a conglomerate of everybody that came before us, and luckily we have these tools where we can be the catalysts and set ourselves, and our whole lineage is free to do this work and other work. So does that give you a little bit of an idea?
Yeah, that gives me like a perfect picture, and it's so powerful. It's one of those things that I've always had an awareness of, but never a deep and full and so clear an explanation. So I really thank you for that, because one, that's brought an awareness to me, but also to anyone who's listening will be like, okay, now I really understand what it is that this is. And I think it's great. I mean, who's coming to you right now? Are you seeing a pattern, or a trend with the clients, or the issues that the clients are coming to you now? What are you noticing?
Yeah, I mean, I have really specialized in helping people have sacred unions, which in my opinion is or in my experience is a different kind of a relationship. Part of why I was struggling so much in having the type of relationship that I wanted was that I wasn't clear on the type of relationship that I wanted, that I really wanted something that was deeply spiritual and rooted in spiritual practices, but also very, in a very deep bond. And so I had to do a lot of healing work to be able to bond with somebody. So a lot of the work that I do is around helping heal that in people so that they can truly bond with each other, and then teaching these practices. And so a lot of the work is around attachment styles, healing the feminine and the masculine, healing. I have a book on sexual trauma. So oftentimes when there's wounding and when we don't trust each other, it is because we've had either sexual trauma or other trauma. Right. So that's a big part of comes or the work that I do specifically.
I really want to speak to, or maybe this is something that you're seeing that I, in my observation, feel like there's been such a pitting against a separation of the sexes.
Yeah.
And over the years, and that the idea that the women are under the men, and the men are the worst things ever, and this demasculization of men that continues, and especially, and I'm going to say it, people are not going to like it, under this guise of feminism, and I'm seeing this story of being for women, and I'm all for women. Like, look at my work, look at everything that I stand for. I'm all for women, but I'm not anti-man. I'm not anti-men. I'm not anti-male. And in my observation, and also in the conversations that I've had, especially with women that really believe that in some form of oppression, and that's not to say that there isn't inequalities in areas of the world, so it's not to pretend that that's not going on, but that we've got so far removed that it's almost like we don't need men, which, like you say about healing those, the polarity, the duality within yourself, will open that up. And in particular, I would say my generation, which is X, and then the generation behind me, millennials, have really been sold a story about it, and has caused a real fracture between the sexes, which has then made women, come out of their softness even, and softness is not weakness, but to come out of their softness, adopt this almost kind of pseudo masculine trait, because we can never really know what it is to be a man. We can only, come into some pseudo idea of it. And then as a result, the man has gone into, like, you can call it many different things as well. Like confusion, also a little bit of definitely not knowing how to respond or be around women, and then it will kind of sit on the sidelines, not really knowing what his role is. I'm just talking in a very, very general way, and then every now and again it will come out as like a frustration or a lashing out, and then of course then the woman can go see, and kind of use that frustration that he has as evidence of all the reasons why she thinks that men are bad. How can we start to heal that? Because that's just such a distortion, and I don't believe it's going to help us going forward. Truthfully, I know I've got my own situations to heal with it, but I've never really bought into the fact that I think that men are such of the problems. The systems that kind of like pit us against each other are, but the everyday man, I'm sure, doesn't want that. Like, what can be done to heal it on a collective level? Like, how can we what can we do on a day-to-day basis when we're meeting each other to not perpetuate this idea?
I think what you mentioned, is to see that it's not a race in who's a bigger victim. In a sense, we men and women have been victimized, and men and women have been oppressed by each other and also by the systems. And so if we can unite, I believe that when we really truly can unite, then we can overcome and become free and be the creators that we're meant to be. So it's really, the work is in each and everyone's individual consciousness, because as you said, we each man and each woman have both forces within ourselves. So in the constellation work, we very much look at it like we come from two lineages. We come from the masculine lineage through our father. So I'm half my father. I'm half, genetically speaking, DNA. Half of it is from my dad's lineage. Half of it is from my mom's lineage. So by nature, by my very own biology and DNA and nature, I am half my father, half my mother. That doesn't mean that because I'm a woman, I'm half feminine, half masculine. I don't think that is true. But in terms of our makeup, half of it comes from the masculine lineage, half of it comes from the feminine lineage. And as long as there's unresolved things in our lineages and within ourselves towards either our father or the line of our lineage of our father or mother, we are not in harmony with ourselves. I look at everything through the lens of vibration. I don't know if you've talked about David Hawkins and the scale of consciousness on the show before, but they're great books, and he's a great researcher and author, and he gave us a scale of consciousness. Anybody listening, if you're Googling the scale of consciousness, you will find it, and it's basically a map or a scale that shows us different vibrational states. And it shows us that anger and hatred and shame and guilt are very low vibrational states of being. And when we live our life consciously and subconsciously in those states, our life is not very good. When we can figure out how to elevate ourselves consciously and subconsciously to a higher state of being, our life tends to flow. And so harmony is a high vibrational state of being. Harmony on the scale of consciousness, I think, measures around 500 or 600. Love, peace, bliss. Peace is 600. 700, we dissolve into light and go back to light being. So I think on the earth, if we can strive to live around 400, 500, 600, I think we do pretty well. So when we can work on integrating our feminine and masculine, healing our lineages and healing our relationship to men and women, but because most of us, we don't trust women and we don't trust men as women, and for men it's similar. Men trust each other a little bit more, but most men do not trust women either. So to the family constellation, and then also just to these realizations that there is no enemy, right? There is no, we are not victims. We can victimize ourselves, or we can live in a victim consciousness, but we can also empower ourselves by looking at who we have become through the experiences that we had, work on healing ourselves. And then for me, I had to learn a lot about men because I was not raised by women that understood men. Most women do not understand men. Men are different creatures, right? They have the basic needs that we have. They want love and belonging just as much as we do, but they go about creating connection and living life very differently than we do, because when a man commits, he is expected to give his life for us. When we commit, we're not expected to give our lives, right? So when a man really takes on the commitment, it's a much different decision than it is for us, and most women do not understand that. And so most women think men are non-committal. They have intimacy issues. They don't want to get close. It's not like that. Men are afraid to bond and commit to the wrong person because they commit so fully, and they don't want to die or give their lives for the wrong person, right? They want to make sure that whoever they end up, that woman is worthy. And I mean, there's a lot more to it, but generally speaking, good men want to make us happy. And if we're somebody who is not, if I'm a woman who's not happy, period, or it's very hard to please me or make me happy, it's going to be very hard for any man, to get any kind of leg up, and it will be very frustrating for men because men want to win without us. Yes, they have a different ego than we do, but it's not necessarily bad, right? If we understand how they work and work with them, we can have so many blessings in our lives. But it really comes from, it's almost like you have to put different glasses on and take off the glasses. Alison Armstrong is one of the women that has done a lot of work on helping women understand men, and she kept saying that we as women generally look at men as a hairier version of women, which they're not. They communicate different, they have different set of values, and when we look at them as just a hairier set of women, they will not make sense to us. We will just think they're stupid, which a lot of women do. So I had to learn a lot, and I had a lot of failed relationships because part of it, yes, I picked the wrong people, but also part of it was I did not understand how to be a good partner to a man.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. I want to ask you a question. It's kind of sort of personal, and
Yeah,
it's not about it's not about a relationship, but it's relating to someone who is clearly in pain,
yeah,
and that I have kind of more like a working relationship with, or have to be around each other. But this person, I believe, from what I understand, it's not that they're shared, but I have an understanding of their recent past is going through a separation or has had a separation of a marriage. I don't know how long it was for. I'm assuming that it was for a period of time. So their life has been turned upside down. As a result, it seems that when he's trying to relate to women, he is still in a lot of pain, and it's very difficult to just come and have a gentle request, about certain things, because you're met with anger or sarcasm, or it's making situations very, very difficult to kind of like collaborate on anything,
yeah,
because and what I can tell just by is just it always goes to emotional reaction, and then kind of blame and trying to kind of shame. It's like,
yeah,
well, there's this, you've done, and all of these kind of things when you're just kind of making a request or trying to collaborate on a situation. And I'm really trying to stay in my heart so I don't get reactive around this person. I realize that they're in a state where they're not going to receive from anyone, because
yeah,
whatever's going on with them is whatever's going on with them. But I want to find a way of, how can I just be okay with myself so that I'm not walking around on eggshells, or in just like, when's the bomb going to go off? Because it's a very fragile situation
yeah,
at the moment, and um, what personal, and for anyone who's listening as well, work or tools could we do to make sure that if we're around people that are in pain or lashing out, and it would be very easy for us to go, men, and kind of like wipe the brush with all of them, knowing that not all men are like that. This is someone who's in pain, but they're really trying to force themselves and overpower based on whatever they've been through, whatever hurt they've gone through.
yeah,
Any tools or ideas or anything like that? Literally asking for myself. I'm not even going to say it's for a friend. Asking for myself,
yeah,
really.
yeah. I mean, first of all, you can have standards for yourself in terms of what's okay and not
Mm,
okay, because even if somebody's in pain, maybe okay once or twice, it's okay if they get angry at me. But if it's a pattern, it will not be okay behavior in my sphere. And I can communicate with that and say, hey, I really want to keep this friendship, and the way that you're communicating with me feels really not good to me,
mm,
and see if it's received, right? The feminine communication. So feminine, when people are angry, your best bet is to not engage with them and give them space is one way, but also to say, hey, to not get angry and stay within your bubble, but also communicate, hey, this does not, I'm feeling scared right now. This feels scary to me. I'm feeling sad. I want to be connected to you, but it feels really hard for me to stay connected when you're being this way. If somebody is healthy, they will hear you. If they do not hear you, if they will start blaming you, um, and if I was in that situation, I would cut the ties. I would give them the space,
mm,
and then they can, in a loving way, not where the door is closed, but for my own sake, I would let them go for a little while. And if they're going through a healing crisis, they will notice at some point that, oh, my friend's not talking to me anymore. Oh, maybe I did something. They'll come around, and you haven't damaged the relationship. You just gave them the space,
mm, 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 mm.
in a sense, because you gave them a chance. You shared with them how you felt, how it made you feel uncomfortable, and if they value the friendship, you know, they will do something. And if not, then the question is like, do you want to be with someone like that? Would you want to have somebody like that in your space? Or do you, you know, for the moment, when they're behaving that way, do they just need to not be in your space for a while or never? And that doesn't mean we have to be angry at them or put them down, or right. That's where most people think if you set a boundary, the boundary has to be within yourself, right? What you're accepting and what not. And when you have that love for yourself and what's okay for you in terms of what comes to your way, then you don't have to be angry at people or cut them off. You can still pray for them. You can send them energy, but you know they're not getting to be in your space for a little while until they realize it. Hopefully, yeah. I mean, that's how I would deal with it at this point in my life.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, all of the things that I'm like, you know, like I'm looking at the situation and going, this is going to really, this is a point of growth for me.
Yeah.
You know, like this is a real...
we can, you know, just because we love people doesn't mean we have to keep turning the cheek, right, and get slapped on the face.
Yeah, love's a big word. I know. Yeah. I'm talking about like it's more like a work situation than love as well. But you know, just you don't want to go around kind of just making.
Yeah, but a lot of, you know, probably a lot of the listeners have situations like that with family members, children, you know, and that's usually where it comes up. And
yeah, I get it. So tell me, you live in Sedona, and tell me about living in Sedona and when did you move there? You know, there's always this kind of beautiful energy and idea about Sedona. I know a few people who have lived and worked in that area over the years, but I always want to hear it from people who are there all the time.
Yeah. I have to say, in my life, I've never planned to move anywhere. And when I left Germany, I ended up in Santa Barbara, which was a beautiful place to live. From there, I ended up in Tulum, which was beautiful. And then I ended up in Sedona. So Sedona is a great place because there's a lot of people like me are normal, right? Like there's healers and psychics and all types of people, like sand at the beach. So in that sense, it gave me a lot of confidence, and it was really great. And even during, I came here 5 years ago, right before COVID, and during COVID, it was great because it was a place where even though the whole country here was shut down, people were still allowed to travel here. So I feel like it definitely played a role in helping people wake up and see that there's more to life. And you know, and that being said, it also has its challenges because sometimes when you're in very spiritual communities, the practical aspects are lacking a little bit. So we've actually just started, we have been wanting to build community, and Sedona is a very small area in terms of geography and land available. So we actually just bought 160 acres 2 hours away from Sedona as kind of like a little hub where people can come and really live in community. Because yes, in Sedona, it's a town, but it's also a very touristy town, you know. So our vision is really to create a community template for multi-generational living that has spiritual principles, but also is very practical in terms of taking care of each other, learning to live with the land, and those types of things.
That's so necessary now. So tell me about how, when you had this vision to create this community and start it as well, because I think there's a real sense of shift being needed, you know, and questions about how can we make that happen in our own way, whether we have the opportunity to buy land and property and make that happen, or whether within the urban areas that we live, we can start to form the energy of community and the newer, more awakened and spiritually realized community as well. So what were the things that brought that together for you?
Well, even before I left Germany, I was living with friends in an apartment, and even back then we were like, we all want to end up on a piece of property, you know, like, so it's been a long time coming. And I don't know if you know Amma, the hugging saint. She's a humanitarian. Amma. Mm-hmm.
Amma, yeah, it's your accent. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Amma. She's kind of my guru. If I had a guru, she would really definitely be my guru. And I hadn't seen her in a while because she wasn't traveling because of COVID. And last summer, she came to New Mexico, which is close to here. And I saw her, and they just showed a 10-minute video of everything that she had done in her life. And my kids are now 14 and 18 at an age where they really don't need me that much anymore. And when I saw what Amma was doing, I was thinking, like, it's great to be in the coaching industry. It's great to, I have been in this industry for 12 years. So I've been in it for a long time. But for me, there's this greater and greater feeling. It's great that we're all figuring out how to make money and helping each other, but are we really doing something real? Like, look at Amma and look at what she's doing. So I was like, I'm not doing enough at all. I need to do something real. I need to get on with this because I've been waiting to join other people, waiting for other people to do it. And I was like, okay, now it's the time I got to do it. If I want this, I have to be the one doing it, and other people can join me. So that's kind of, it's been a long time in the making.
Great. And how do you see your work unfolding you've got the community and all of the constellation work that you're doing?
Yeah.
What else do you have on board that you're bringing forward?
Yeah, so Tim and I, my partner and I, we wrote a book on the Bliss-bonding, the practices that we have. And I'm seeing Turiya is the community with the retreat center and eco village. So hopefully there will be others living there that want to share their gifts. Hopefully others will come. We are hoping to teach workshops and retreats there, but also we are hoping to travel and teach Bliss-bonding retreats and do family constellation retreats. And I train people in family constellations, so I have apprentices, and really I really enjoy passing the skill onto people, because in all honesty, the reason why I've been able to be successful in my business and make it here in a foreign country is because I had the skill, and I also feel confident in creating this community because I have the skill, because with the constellations you can really look at any type of issue. So moving forward, when there is conflict or issues that we have to overcome as a community, we will use the constellation process, so I feel very confident having that in my back pocket, and hopefully just passing on and learning how to be with each other and creating templates of guidelines and ways to be with each other.
And can you tell me just a little bit more about that bliss bonding work that you're doing with your partner?
Yeah. So 8 years ago, I came across a book called Cupid's Poisoned Arrow. It is written by a woman named Marnia Robinson. She's a lawyer, so she's not in the healing space at all, but very similar to my story. Her relationships would start out great, and then within a few months or a year, they would all fall apart. And she would just not understand why, and she also wouldn't accept that our relationships were that was just the fate of our relationship, intimate relationships. So she started researching and studying ancient texts and also neurochemistry, and basically discovered that as human beings, we have two programs for lovemaking. We have one that we know for procreation that includes orgasms and is very much based on novelty and dopamine releases and dopamine highs, and that's why we feel so good in the beginning in a relationship, and that's why also relationships deteriorate. So a lot of it has to do with our neurochemistry. But then she also discovered that we have the second program for lovemaking that is more based on bonding and the reward chemicals that we get from bonding, oxytocin. And so there's a way to learn to make love with each other that instead of releasing dopamine, releases oxytocin. And when we learn to do that, it creates a deep, deep bond with each other, just like a mother and child bond. And when we have that, our relationships we become securely attached with each other in the relationship, and really can talk about everything and just feel safe and secure with each other. And I would not be able to do what I'm doing. I would not be able to take on a huge project like building Turiya if my relationship wasn't solid. And the reason why our relationship is solid because we have these practices. So yeah, I don't know if that gives you a little idea, but yeah. Cupid's Poison Arrow is a great book. It's has a lot. It's a very thick book and very dense book. And then ours, it's called the Bliss Codes, is a our book is more like the appetizer, so maybe read that first. And then if people want to dive deeper, then the Cupid's Poison Arrow is like the full on course and meal, you know?
Sure. And how do you deliver that work? Are you delivering it in like live workshops, or is it online?
I have an online course for couples. I have online courses for singles. I have online courses for couples. We do weekend workshops, and then the books. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, have you got anything else that's coming out? Are you kind of about to launch anything that you want to talk about, and then tell everyone where we can find you, Carolin?
Yeah, so right now we're really working on getting people interested in participating with Turiya. We're selling lots, we're selling memberships, so people can come for timeshares, so people can actually live there. That's part of it. We're looking for people that want to partner with us in terms of building the retreat center, running the retreat. And then the first workshop that we're teaching this year is going to be at the Conscious Life Expo in Los Angeles. I think it's February 7th through 9th. So that's a big event. It's part of a big life expo in LA. Those are kind of the things that are on the horizon.
Great.
And then,
sorry.
Go ahead.
I was asking you, and what's the best way to contact you and find out about your work?
It's really on Facebook, my Facebook profile, Carolin Hauser. Yeah, just Facebook, Carolin Hauser.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, and for sharing your information, your wisdom, and I hope that people get more from it and reach out to you and do the work. There's a lot of healing that needs to be done right now as well, so it's great to find out the modality that you're using. So
yeah, I mean it's very effective and really saves years and years in therapy and can heal lifelong issues and within a matter of an hour, you know. Yeah.
In this world of instant relief, that's what we want, something that's get right to it quickly, right?
Yeah, especially if you've tried a lot of things, you know, and if you're like really needing help right now, then that's, you know, that's when it's effective. Not that there's not ongoing work, but to get like the ball rolling, it's usually really a good tool. So thanks for having me and helping me spread the word about all of this.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Carolin, for sharing your wisdom with me, and thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the wisdom of my guest, please feel free to share it with somebody else that you feel will benefit from what they shared today in this episode. And if you enjoyed it, please also leave a comment and a review. If you want to find out more about me, you can find me on my website. It's carolmaywhittick.com, CarolmaeWhittick.com. You can also connect with me under Carol May Whittick on LinkedIn and Facebook, and Casmic, CAZMICK on Instagram. So until the next episode, enjoy. Thank you.